Hi, I'm Armand Diaz, and welcome to the first video Astroblog. Today we're going to start out with the question of personality. Can you tell personality from the astrological chart? No. But I'll go into a little bit more depth for you. First of all, when we look at a chart, we don't know what we're looking at. We could be looking at the chart of a person, but we could be looking at the chart of a corporation. We could be looking at the chart of an animal. We could be looking at the chart of a government. We really don't know any of that from looking at the chart itself. Okay, let's say we know we're talking about a person, male or female. From what culture? To what degree of attachment does the person have to their culture? We don't know. We don't really know much about the person just by looking at the chart. What we do know are the basic energetic patterns that are described by the planets. That we do know. And of course, we can fill that out with house and sign and other types of information and aspects and all of the other things that we look at in the chart. But these are really like fields of information, fields of meaning, sort of like a gravitational field or an electromagnetic field, but not a physical force, but rather a meaningful type of field. And we can see how these interact with each other when we look at aspects and so on. But we don't know how they're going to manifest because each of those symbols, Saturn or Mars or Neptune, each of those can manifest and does manifest in infinite ways. So that we don't really have Saturn standing for, like a sign standing for a particular thing. There's a feel. You know Saturn. You know about Saturn. You know something about how Saturnian energy works, but that doesn't describe the specifics. It describes the underlying pattern. What we have is a blueprint, an energetic blueprint in the chart, but how it's filled in is something we can't really know. So let's take an aspect like Jupiter square Mercury. It might be tempting to think that somebody with Jupiter square Mercury is just going to talk a lot. Maybe they're kind of bombastic. They're jumping in, ready to express their opinion all the time. They're not good listeners. That's kind of the sort of explanation that you might see in an old-time astrology book. And it's a possibility, but it's not the only possibility. Because those energies, the expansive energy of Jupiter and the communication and the sensational aspect of Mercury can manifest in many, many different ways and in many, many different combinations. Most importantly, though, what creates a personality trait is not the energetic blueprint, the underlying blueprint. Rather, it is the continual and habitual response to that energy. In other words, the Jupiter-Mercury square is constantly active in the person's chart. Every time they're communicating, every time they're learning, they're going to be activating that Jupiter-Mercury square. Now, if their level of awareness about themselves is fairly low, they're going to continually repeat the same response to that aspect. That is, I'm going to jump in and talk as soon as I have the opportunity to do so. And it's that low level of awareness and that ongoing repetition of the pattern that creates the personality trait. But it need not be so. Somebody that has some awareness of what they're doing, somebody who has some awareness of the way that they are acting, can put a little space between themselves and that energy, and in doing so, they can manifest it in a different way. For example, they might at least have a sense of humor about the fact that they talk a lot. Or somebody with a Jupiter-Mercury square might be politically active, might be spiritually inclined. They might do a lot of reading. They might take in a lot of information with this aspect. There's really a number of personality traits that could come out as a result of this, but in fact, there doesn't have to be any enduring personality trait at all, because they could also have a degree of flexibility which allows them to use this aspect in many, many different ways. If they're really aware of what's going on, if they're really aware of what the aspect offers them, then sometimes they can use it to talk and sometimes they can use it to listen, you know? So astrologers should move away from the idea of being right. We want to get the right interpretation. We want to wow the client. We want to wow everybody and say, we know about you. We know your personality. But we don't. We don't know personality. What we know are the basic energies, and we need to talk to the clients about how they're living their life to understand how it's manifesting in their life. And rather than telling them about themselves, which at best is flattering, I don't know if the Mercury-Jupiter thing would be too flattering, but at best it's flattering to hear about yourself. We can try to offer up possibilities and ways for them to expand and become more aware of the energies and so find more options. And rather than putting them in a box and saying, I know about your personality, we can say, these are the energies. Let's see if we can get you out of the box a bit. And I think that that's a much better use for astrology and a much more enriching experience for clients. Now, old-timey astrologers were apparently pretty good at doing personality things, and in our next video, Astroblog, we'll talk about why that is the case.